Hey guys, Porpoise Porker here, and I got a member request to play the P-38E, and I was going to do just one on this plane, but after having played a few matches in it, I realized that I should probably also do one on the P-38G as well in this review. And that's because the P-38E is kinda just not very good. I'm not that big a fan of P-38s in general, since even though they're American planes, they're not that fast, do poorly at high speeds, and are also very wonky to maneuver and line up the nose for a gunshot. I feel like the ailerons and rudders are clogged with some kind of nondescript viscous fluid that makes them very sluggish and slow to respond, and so it takes much more conscious effort to line up even for a basic deflection shot. You have to adjust the roll angle to make sure that your nose follows the enemy through their path, but because it's so slow to respond, you have to be very careful to line up exactly how you want it, otherwise it's going to be off. Plus, it makes it very difficult to maneuver out of the way of a head-on or fly erratically for defensive flying. I know the later P-38s get boosted control surfaces that lessen the problem, but they still don't feel great to maneuver, and these early ones don't get them anyways, so a lot of the time, I feel like you're fighting your own plane to do what you want it to do. And as a side tangent, another reason I don't like the P-38s is that every single time I play it, I'm reminded of that stupid challenge video that I made trying to fly the BI through the gap through the twin booms. And I remember how that shitpost was supposed to be making fun of all of the low effort challenges YouTube people do for War Thunder. And now it ended up being my best performing video, and even to this day still draws in consistently more views than my more recent high effort videos. Cower for fell off for real. My personal grievances with the P-38 aside. The P-38s are planes that heavily rely on getting altitude before the enemy does, since they don't inherently climb all that well relative to most fighters at their BR and rely on their interceptor air spawns to secure an early game advantage. Similar to the P-47s, the P-38 engines do maintain their engine power very well up to high altitude, so they do have that going for them. The problem with the P-38E specifically is that its raw engine power and climb is just not good enough, and you will very often find yourself at or below the same altitude as the enemies at the start of the match. Plus, the poor engine power really hurts this plane's preferred dogfighting style of vertical loops, energy traps, and raid fights. Luckily, this exact problem with the P-38E is the one that the P-38G remedies with stronger engines. Its climb is still not quite as good as most fighters at its BR, but it's still good enough that you can usually establish that early game energy advantage that this plane relies on in order to do well, just so long as the enemies also don't start with an air spawn. As for the rest of its flight characteristics, apart from the sluggish controls, the turn rate is okay, but the base turn circle of this plane is not that great, about what you'd expect out of a heavy fighter. But where this plane really shines is in its flap performance. The Fowler flaps are very efficient at tightening turn without reducing turn rate, even up to the landing flaps, so you're going to want to use them if you're doing any macro maneuvering turns. And because a lot of people don't know how to use them properly, they're pretty good at surprising enemies in a raid fight or at the top of a loop by getting guns on much faster than they'd expect. The firepower on this plane is alright. It's a similar configuration to the A21RB with one A&M2 20mm cannon plus 4 early war 50 cals all in the nose. You only have 150 rounds of 20mm ammo, whereas you get 2,000 50 cal rounds, which last about 2.5 times longer if you fire them together, so I highly recommend you split the guns and just fire the 50 cals if you want to harass people from a longer distance without wasting your 20mm. And this is one thing that you don't notice as much when you're playing other planes with A&M2, since they usually have at least 2 of them, but the single gun has a rather low fire rate of 600 RPM, same as the early Hispano Mark IIs. In contrast, the German MG151 is at 700 RPM, the US Navy M3s and Hispano Mark Vs are at 750, Russian Shavaks are at 800, and the Ho-5s on Japanese Key series planes are at 950. The only 20mm that seem to fire slower are the Japanese Type 99s at 516 for Type 1s and 490 for Type 2s. Either way, the low fire rate, plus the fact that you only have a single gun, means that in deflection shots, it's very possible for the enemy to just fly through your rounds, which can be very annoying for a plane that takes meticulous effort to set up for a shot. So sometimes you're forced to stick on an enemy much longer than you were expecting to. So, how do you play this plane? Well, this plane very neatly fits in the box of an energy fighter in the sense that it doesn't really do anything else all that well. It's not that great at going fast for boom and zooms, rolling for defensive flying, or turning just for straight turn fights, especially in a down tier where there are a lot of very turny planes. What it can do is climb high and fight enemies at an energy advantage. Energy traps, vertical loops, the occasional raid fight against someone who doesn't perform well at altitude. Use the fact that this plane doesn't lose engine power at higher altitudes to do as much damage to the enemy as you can while high up. Always try to target the highest enemy up, and if you push them lower, target the next highest enemy, as you do not want to be flying defensive in this thing and end up being lower than anybody. As I've said before, I don't really enjoy this playstyle since very often the enemies can just see that you're winning the energy fight, and if they're smart enough, they'll just play passive and dive lower, meaning that you have to spend more time chasing down the next highest guy, setting up a fight, and repeating the process with another potential runner. You do technically make progress with reducing the net energy state of the enemies by pushing them lower into a more disadvantageous state, but for the time it takes to do that, the enemies will have had plenty of time to wipe out your own team, and now you're stuck dipping your feet into red lava soup beneath you that you can't even reliably energy fight anymore, since you can only consistently survive those if there aren't 5 extra enemies ready to catch you on your way out of your boom and zoom. It's slow, tedious, not very engaging from a dogfight perspective, limits your early game potential, and comes down less to player skill and more to how willing either party is to waste each other's time by playing passive. However, since this is a relatively low BR, there are a lot of less skilled enemies that will take the bait more often, so you can get away with playing more aggressively and getting more kills that way. So I actually didn't have too bad of a time playing the P-38G. We will, however, be starting with P-38E gameplay, which in turn I did not have as good of a time in. And this background footage sort of just captures the worst of this plane. I climbed to altitude, there were a bunch of enemies at my altitude that I couldn't engage all at once, so I decided to run. I managed to drag one guy away, but after I bleed him of his energy, he just dives away. I spent 3 minutes going after the next highest guy, and he also dives away. Basically, I spent 10 minutes doing basically nothing, only get a kill on a guy who wasn't maneuvering. Maybe I could have kept doing that, but at the end, I just sort of give up. This next match, I've managed to climb a little bit higher this time, since on this map, the fighters don't start with an air spawn. I'm trying to very quickly take out this bomber before I go. Okay, that took a little longer than I thought it would, and a third of my 20mm ammo, but hey, at least I'm not damaged. Continuing my climb, there's a 109 that is very close underneath me, so I'm gonna actually try and loop on down over him. See if I can get a shot on him while he's trying to run. And he does the smart thing of just continuing his running away. I could maybe catch up to him while I'm driving down on him, but this is not going to be a very efficient use of my time, so I'm just gonna spray some 50 cal at him, and then climb back up so that I can re-engage the enemies at higher altitude. Or maybe he is going to pitch up and stall for me. This might give me an opportunity to get an energy trap. Flaps are fully out because I'm going very slow. Let's hope that we're not close enough that I'm actually able to get guns on in here. You can see how much better the turn is with the flaps out. There we go. And here comes another 109. It looks like it's an F1, and I'm thinking, hey, I probably should be able to compete with an F1. I do know that the P-38G is able to compete with the 109 F1 and F2, so I'm going to try and take this into a rate fight and see what happens. It seems like I am gaining position on him, but he's actually maintaining altitude pretty well. And it also looks like he's able to go up, and I don't think I'll be able to actually follow him up into this upward spiral. And now I'm going really slow. I've bled all of my energy. These engines just aren't producing enough power for me to be able to sustain this fight. And now he's starting to gain a lot of position on me. This is not good. I need to figure out what I want to do, so I'm going to try and dive down a little bit, regain a little bit of energy, and then see if I can pitch up for him. But he's playing this very smart, and I don't think I'll be able to win this if he knows what he's doing. It looks like he's cashing in his energy early. He's going downwards now. I guess he got impatient. I'm going to see if I can try and stay behind him in this scissors fight now. These flaps should give me a pretty tight turn, but we're keeping this pretty horizontal, so I'm gonna end up running out of energy pretty quickly. I am behind him now, but he has a lot more energy and is able to pitch up. And I wasn't able to finish this fight as quickly as I needed to, and so I end up getting third-partied by that BF-109E. Yeah, this plane is really a struggle. That being said, it's not impossible to do well in this plane. You're just a lot more reliant on the enemy to make a lot of mistakes. And enemies do tend to make quite a lot of mistakes at this battle rating since it's pretty low, so you're fighting quite a lot of inexperienced players. I've climbed about as hard as I could, and there's a MB-157 above me. I am very much dreading fighting that guy, but it looks like he's occupied right now, so I'm gonna go after the Spitfire first. I don't know if I can guarantee that I'll have an energy advantage enough to escape the fight, but I'm going to at least have to try the head-on here. And he dives below me, so hopefully I should be able to just extend upwards. He's probably not going to retain very much energy in that turn. So as long as that MB-157 doesn't come after me, then I should be okay. Spitfire isn't immediately diving away, so that looks like he is at least committing to the fight to a degree. which is good. I don't want him to escape if I'm going to spend time trying to engage him. It does look like he's making some sort of evasive maneuvers though. And then he decides to throw it all away by just coming upwards. Not sure what he was trying to do there, but it didn't really work out for him very well. Now it looks like we have a MiG-3 and a P-38G engaging the MB-157. If the 157 is smart, then he might actually be able to come out on top in that fight. But for the moment, he's occupied and I don't really want to waste time adding a third person to that pile, so I'm actually just going to go downwards and see if I can find some enemies to shoot down from here. There's a damaged 109 limping back to base, so I'm just gonna make sure that he doesn't make it back. There we go, let's see if there's anybody else around here. That bomber is looking like a good target. Should just be another easy kill right here. And I miss all of my shots, I'm gonna try and catch up to him. Or I guess he overspeeds and rips his wing off. It's kind of funny watching that thing flutter around. Anyways, I got bigger concerns. There's this B-239 coming in. That's a very dangerous target that could dogfight me very well. Coming in for the head-on. Very luckily, I do manage to severe him. Though it does look like he is flying straight, and he's only missing a wing. He might actually be able to make it back to base. So I'm going to turn around and make sure that he goes down. Checking my 6 to see what the status is on the MB-157. I think he's gone down already. There is a Focke-Wulf above me though, so that might be a little bit of a concern. I'm just going to use the 50 cals here because I don't want to waste my 20s. I will be able to catch up eventually, so I'm not in too much of a rush right now. I'm just hoping that he goes down. It only gave me a hit. It wasn't a crit, so this is probably a fuel fire. It has a good chance that it's going to go out, so I'm going to make sure that he goes down. There we go. And here comes a 109. Let's see if I can do a bit better in this dogfight than last time. He's not heading for me right now, but he might turn in at the last second, so I do have to be careful. Okay, here he comes. It's a 109F, so it's not going to turn quite as well as a 109E. I'm going slow enough for takeoff flaps, so I'm going to pop them and use them in the raid fight here. And I am bleeding some speed, but I'm actually able to get positioned very quickly, and because I had enough speed, I'm able to get onto his 6 pretty quickly. If he had tried to continue that rate, then I might have not been able to follow, but he reversed the turn into a scissors, and I'm able to pilot snipe him. Very lucky. Sometimes those fights take really long time to actually line up the shot for. This plane is pretty slow, so I wasn't able to get to the Sakine before my friendlies did, but there's this one last bomber that I'm going to go after, and that should be the end of the match. So this plane can work. It was just that in this match I was fighting all enemies that were below me at an energy disadvantage, as well as already too damaged to fight me. It did take some handling to actually get some of those fights to work, especially against that 109F, but for the most part it came down to the mistakes that the enemies made, not me. After having played those first 3 matches in the P-38E, excluding that last 6-kill match, I was pretty sick with the P-38E and wanted to see if the P-38G would do any better. Now this plane is completely stock. I think I maybe have fuselage repair, the first modification that you get, because I'd maybe played like 1 game in this before. But immediately I was able to feel the difference. This thing was really able to get an energy advantage at the start of the match. I did sort of risk it all with that head-on with the Key 44, but I guess I was lucky this time, and the guns actually did the damage that they needed to do. I've got a Yak 9 and a CW21. I don't think I'm going to win a dogfight against either of them just in a pure turn fight, so I'm going to have to start with an energy advantage on them, as usual. I'm hoping that he's going to stall out pretty soon so that I can dive down onto him. The CW21 is stalling up for me very aggressively though, so I'm just hoping that he's not able to get guns on me. Full flaps out. He's getting really close, but it does look like he's not quite able to pitch his nose in for me. He did get very, very close to me though. So this should be my opportunity to turn back in and try and get to him. The roll though, it's so slow. Trying to actually get a follow-up shot on somebody who's just stalled up for you is such a pain in the butt. Luckily, it does look like he reversed his turn. He's probably going to try and dive underneath. And here the poor roll once again gets in the way of me actually getting a good deflection shot on him. He dodges up and down a little bit, and because I can't roll to be perpendicular with his direction, I end up missing all of those shots. And that's why it feels like a chore to play this plane to me sometimes. Either way, it looks like the CW21 is diving away. I do have friendlies in the area, which is good. It means that I won't have to be the one to execute upon their stalls. And the friendly might also be stalling enemies for me as well, so there is a chance that this works out in our favor. Mosquito is getting chased down right now, but he seems to be doing alright. I'm gonna start by targeting the enemy in the back. This plane is similarly hard to aim at high speeds, so I might not get a good shot here. Yak 9 dives away, LA 5 dives away. Maybe I can get the CW21. If my aim was better, I might have been able to shoot him there, but he also dives away. I heard some shots from behind, so I was a little bit worried that the enemies were catching up to me, but it looks like they aren't. Pitching up to see if either of them are going to try and follow me. The Yak 9 does seem to be very interested. He did stall up for me earlier as well. And this is a bit of a risk. I'm going incredibly slow, so if he just gets one good angle on me, then I could be dead. And it looks like he's actually not fully stalled out yet, so I'm going to neg G a little bit to try and get out of his guns. And super luckily, he actually stalls out right when I'm diving down on him. Perfect timing. That could have ended very poorly if his aim was slightly better. LA5 incoming. I don't really have a choice but to take a head on here. Only hits. I'm just going to shallow climb this direction so that I can gain enough distance from him and hope that he doesn't have the energy to follow. The Mosquito has dragged the CW21 pretty far down to low altitude, so I only really have to deal with the LA5 now. He's diving away, so I should have another opportunity to dive down onto him. He is maneuvering, so I'm going to try and find a good angle to get behind him. And he does a very aggressive pitch up. It looks like he wants this head on here. I'll try and take it. I wasn't expecting him to be able to pull that shot off while he was going that slow, but I guess he wasn't going too slow. I do somehow manage to survive that though. Pretty lucky once again. Nobody at altitude anymore, so I dive down and get an assist on this PE2. My friendlies deal with all the other enemies, so the last enemy is this B-25. And I know that this plane is stock, but man, it is impressive how slow this plane is. Because I'm using manual engine controls to keep the radiators open so that it doesn't overheat, it goes like 450 kph on the deck, which is not good. It took me long enough to try and catch this B-25, but now I have to catch up to him again, and it's just going to make it very easy for him to shoot at me while I try to approach him. I jam one of my 50 cals trying to shoot at him, I re-engage. Finally, I get a fire off of him. Yeah, just having 450 cals is not that great. He puts the fire out. Come on, man, I'm just running out of ammo now at this point. Okay, finally another fire. I would actually like a severe now, please. But I'm out of ammo, the rest of the MGs are just from the jammed gun, and as I'm trying to make my escape, this guy completely shreds my wings off. Something skill issue, I guess. And for all that, I'm rewarded with an assist. Very cool. So if you're able to, make sure to split the guns. I thought I had enough to spade this plane after that match, but I accidentally used the RP on the rockets, so it's going to take one more match to fully spade the plane, but it's pretty close. There's not going to be that big of a difference anymore. Once again, I've managed to climb to altitude. There are two attackers that are dead set on trying to kill this bomber. So there's a chance that they're going to be really easy targets here. Key 45 could have been a pretty dangerous target since it does turn well, but he stalled himself out for me, so that's quite nice. Yak 2 cab. I should be able to turn into him here if I use my flaps. Now it's just a matter of trying to get this deflection shot, which sometimes doesn't work as well as I want it to, but this time I get a fire, and that should hopefully be him going down. I was going to go for that Key 21, but there's a VG33C coming in. I'm not really sure how that thing flies. I did do the diagram for it a while ago, but I don't think I've flown it in like a few years, so I have no idea. He probably has Hispano, so I do want to be worried about that, but I do manage to severe him in the head-on, so I don't really have to worry about what his performance is like. And now I'm reassessing the situation around me. There is a MiG-3 at altitude, which could be a bit of a concern. If he comes for me, then I'm going to be forced to dogfight him. And I am the highest person on my team right now, so there's a good chance that he's going to focus me. Which means that I probably want to climb a bit to get some more energy before I engage him. Yeah, it looks like he's heading straight for me. I'm gonna do a little bit of climbing, and then I'm going to turn back in for him so that I can head on. Once he's at about 3 kilometers. It is a bit of a risk going this slow. Head-ons are usually best when you're going fast, so I'm going to dive a little bit before I get into this head-on, use my combat flaps to quicken my turn. And it actually looks like he's going to try and energy trap me here. Maybe I can get a shot off. He's letting me get quite close, but I'm not quite able to pull in for that shot. Luckily, I'm close enough to him that he's not able to pitch down into me. And using my landing flaps, I'm able to actually stay inside of his circle very easily. Hopefully he tries to go vertical again. That would probably give me the easiest shot. But no, it looks like he's running away. That's fine, I'll just maintain my altitude and see who I should go for next. Or he's going to try and pitch up this way? I'm not really sure what his plan is. But it does seem like he's trying to bait me back into this fight. So I will try and take it. If he presents a good shot, then I'm going to go for it, but he cuts into me, so I'm going to wait a little bit to see if I can find a better angle to attack him from. And out of nowhere, he does this very aggressive pull up, which is going to give me another very easy shot that I managed to miss. Something about the rudder and the ailerons being sluggish and the gun having a low fire rate. Or a skill issue, I don't know, you can decide. Another hit. And it looks like we're very firmly stuck in his scissors. He is trying to go slow and trying to force the overshoot from what I can tell. So I'm going to lower my throttle, drop my flaps, try to tighten my turn as much as I can while creating as much drag as I can. Just more hits. I just need to make sure that he doesn't overshoot, and I should be able to get him eventually. And that's the 4th hit of the scissors fight. Let's see if I can farm a few more of those before I kill this guy. Okay, finally, Jesus. And the MiG-3 isn't that good of a dogfighter to begin with. It has a pretty wide turning circle, so that took a lot longer than it should have. There's a pontoon 0 below me. I'm going to check if he has his pontoons on. It doesn't look like it, so he could be potentially a pretty dangerous target. But he's pretty low, so if I do dive on him, I should have energy to escape. Luckily, the guns actually decided to work this time, so I'm able to kill him in one pass. Heading back towards the friendlies. There's still a CW21. Maybe I can get in and take the kill here. There are like 4 friendlies that are coming after him though, so I might not actually be able to get him here. I take one of his wingtips off, but it's only a crit. Let's see if I can finish him off after looping around. After killing the Corsair, he's going to try and pitch up for me, but I'm going to be able to loop into his circle using my flaps. And something bad rudder makes it kind of hard to aim, so I'm probably just going to get an assist out of this. Or it looks like he actually just J'd out. That's pretty nice. Last enemy was a bomber, but he ends up crashing, so that's the end of the match. And with this match, I should be fully spaded. There were only a few modifications left to go, so I'm gonna do one more match just to see how this plane feels once it's fully spaded. I've given it the angry eyes because I know that this plane is actually pretty decent. Anyways, we're on Britain, which means that all the fighters also get an air spawn, so we're not going to be able to get an outright energy advantage at the start of the match. This is going to make our job a little bit difficult, but I do know that we can still dogfight 109s if we play our cards right and go for the energy fight, plus the better flaps to use for tighter turns. I don't want to rush straight into that horde of BF-109s though, because a lot of them are E's and I probably won't be able to dogfight all of them at once. There's a T that is still climbing up for me, but I'm not too worried about him, and I can't afford to dive back down on him because there are plenty of other enemies that'll be able to kill me if I decide to lose my altitude too early. CW21 is flying underneath me, but he's not engaging me, so I should be okay for now. Priority target is that Japanese 109. A lot of people like to use that thing to seal club, so there's a good chance that he's actually an experienced pilot farming SL. He also did just take out my friendly XP-38G, so he could be a pretty dangerous target to engage, but it also looks like he's diving away, so I'm going to turn back in and see if I can engage any of these guys. But this CW21 seems like he's very focused on targeting me. I am going quite slow right now, below 260 kph, so there's a chance that he's able to stall up for me. But I'm not really in a position to dive back down on him, so I'm just going to go after this 109, who is turning back for me. I'm just going to spray with my 50 cals to deter him from taking the head on, and now that he's pulled off, I'm going to use my 20mm. I crit his elevator, I guess that's something. This does put me in a defensive position against the CW21, but I do have the speed to be able to extend away from him. I just need to make sure to avoid these shots. The poor roll doesn't help, but I'm at a safe enough distance and his guns don't do that much damage, so I should be safe here. I haven't really been able to get anything done so far other than crit that 109, but we do still have a lot of teammates left. I'm just waiting for that CW to pull off. I think he might be, or he might just be pretending to so that he can pull back in. Either way, I think I have enough energy to outclimb him at the moment, so I'm going to try and turn back in and see if I can get on his 6. Okay, he's not pitching up for me, so I'm going to attack him here. He probably won't make it easy. Yeah, he's turning downwards. So we're just going to have to repeat this process over and over again. I'm going to attack and overshoot, and then I'm going to climb away, and then I'm going to repeat that. Oh, okay. Usually I don't hit those shots. But for now, I'm going to level off and see if I can find anybody else to engage right now. There doesn't seem to be anybody else at altitude, so I'm going to actually dive down on the next highest target that I can see, which is this 109. I don't want to come in too fast, otherwise I might compress and then rip my wings. Yeah, I should have lowered throttle. I was compressing quite a bit there. I have a large enough energy advantage over him, so it shouldn't be too much of a concern to just loop back over him though. He doesn't seem to be acting very concerned about me though, so maybe I'll be able to get a good shot on him while he's distracted. This time I'm zero throttling so that I don't compress too hard. And yeah, the rudder is not working with me today. Please just get the nose to go where I want it to, please. Oh my god. I almost overshot him there, but I should be able to use my flaps to stay behind him. Okay, there we go. Please just hit the shot this time. Oh my god. Like, this is what I mean when I say that I feel like you're fighting the plane more than you're fighting your enemies. The rudder doesn't want to point the nose where you want it to go, and when you are able to get your nose on target, half the time the enemy just flies through your deflection shots because of the low fire rate. It's overall just not that interesting of a plane to play. But I am still glad that I'm not playing the P-38E right now. Once again, rudder problems. I can't roll over for that shot either, because if I do, then I crash into the ground. Let's see if I can kill either of these guys before my friendlies take them out. That's one. I'm gonna spray with my 50 cal, see if I can get an assist. That was the 109 that I crit at the very start of the match, so that's a surprise. I thought he was fine enough to make it back to base. I think I crit his wingtip off. Okay. Well, that's game. I will say you maybe get up tiers to 4.0 sometimes, but I don't think I've gotten a single full up tier to 4.3, so I'm glad I didn't have to fight any Yak 3s. But that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.